Yeah.
Welcome, Sai. You can start now.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's Sunday morning, which means it's time for yet another episode of Funnily Enough, which is an interview style. I don't want to call it a talk show. It's more like a one-on-one conversation between me and a few other people on the Mavin Magic platform. But this time we're doing things a little differently, simply because, it's always nice to change things up and challenge ourselves a little. So this time we're going to bring in two guests and have a certain central topic of conversation, something like a panel discussion. And the topic we've chosen today is XX, exploring the role of evolution of women in today's India. And the reason for that is a brief conversation I had with one of our guests, Satinder, where she mentioned that, I am a independent woman who does a lot of different things, and I'm very grateful that my husband supports that. And to me, it was sounding a little like, oh, it's expected, right? Shouldn't it be that husbands support or spouses support each other in their careers and their growth paths? To which Satinder's response was very interesting. That the fact that he does it is itself a good thing. The fact that he gives you space, the fact that there is no holding anybody back, that itself is something to be noticed and appreciated. Which is, to me, it's a little interesting to hear. And Rajpreet and I, we go back a long way. We've been school friends. We last spoke to each other in 1998, which means our friendship spans a century, basically. So let me quickly introduce our two guests. Let me start with Satinder first. She's a former banker with over 3 decades of experience in service operations, customer experience, and process optimization. She began her career as a probationary officer with the Punjab National Bank and later joined ICICI Bank in his formative years, playing a key role in setting up operations and scaling service functions. She stepped away from a full-time corporate role at 50 to build a more flexible, meaningful life, and now works as a consultant, speaker, and an author. She is internal ombudsman for Avance Financial Services Limited. She's currently writing a book on service excellence and operations, drawing from her years of hands-on leadership. And she's a mother and a grandmother. Her hobbies have stayed with her throughout in some form or the other. Her creative side includes crochet, knitting, embroidery, and a deep love for saris. Interesting. She blends tradition with reflection and reinvention, finding joy in both structure and self-expression. Satinder, thank you so much for being part of this panel discussion. Yeah, you're on mute, by the way, just so you know.
Thank you. My pleasure for that nice introduction.
Yes, and we'll talk about saris because it's interesting that people, I didn't expect people to still be interested in sari. I only see people wearing salwar kameez nowadays. And let me introduce our second guest, Rajpreet Kaur. Rajpreet is a PhD scholar from XLRI and a seasoned business leader with over 20 years of cross-industry experience in corporates like TCS, Airtel, HSBC, and Standard Chartered. She is the founder of Fair and Square, a sustainable HR tech startup, and an ICF certified leadership coach. An alumna of MDI Gurgaon and Wharton Entrepreneurship Accelerator, she has trained more than 2,400 professionals and led transformative DEI and leadership programs. Rajpreet holds multiple certifications across psychology, ESG, DEI, and neuroscience. She's also an active researcher, a jury member, SHRM 2023, and the founder of a women's community, Say Cheese, a mother of an 11-year-old daughter, Bani, and a psychologist. She's happy to share her experiences with us today. So what is interesting about Rajpreet is that she is, I think, an engineer and an MBA transformed into a psychologist. So she's spanned both the very technical to more management-y and now into purely into the mind and abstract stuff like that. So welcome, Rajpreet. Thank you for being part of this panel discussion as well.
Thank you, Sai. Glad to be here and wishing everyone a very happy Friendship Day.
Yeah, you didn't mention that. Happy Friendship Day, everyone. Now, I'm going to start off with a word game that I love playing. It's a great way to break the ice. It's a great way to just figure out how people think. So, Rajpreet, we're going to start with you because we started with Satinder in the introductions. The word game is very simple. I'm going to give you a simple word, and you have to tell me a name, a place, an animal, and a thing associated with it. The only catch being that you get only 30 seconds to do it. Are you ready?
I wish I could have prepared for it.
You cannot prepare for this because you never know what word I'm going to give you.
Sure.
All right. So I'm just going to be, hopefully it'll be in line with what you've already studied. The word for you is ego. So a name, place, animal, and a thing associated with ego. And your time starts now.
Name would be Vishal,
Okay.
because having that bird's eye view of, I mean, something large. It could, place could be, I would say maybe the USA. And that's what I would say. It's again, I just associate it with the whole size part of it, and also sharpness. Place, animal. Animal is again, eagle is in.
Keep going, keep going. I'm not going to stop you. Keep going. These are interesting answers.
So yeah, sure. Eagle itself is an animal. So yeah, I mean, and again, maybe a hawk or something which is also sharp, I would say. And then what else is there? Because that's the word that I'm associating with eagle a lot
Animal,
in
think.
terms. Because
Think.
thing could be yeah, maybe a pen.
A pen. All right. Sounds good. We're going to stop this. Actually, to be, maybe I wasn't clear, but I meant ego, as in psychology, ego, like that.
Oh,
But
I'm
eagle is
so
good enough.
sorry.
Yeah, that's totally okay. It's a game. You don't have to, there are no rules in this. Satinder, are you ready for your question?
Yeah.
All right. The word for you is, I'm going to give you something ridiculous. Tape.
Tape.
Yes, because I can see sellotape in that shelf over there. So I'm going to say tape. A name, place, animal, and a thing associated with tape.
God, this is like name. Okay,
Chippu
I have a friend, Meena. She's like a tape.
I hope Meena's not watching this. I don't know if it's in a
It's
positive
okay.
way.
Yeah. Old friend. Place. My God, this is like place would be. No clue. I thought mine would be easier, but it isn't.
You could have misheard me and said tape. You mean car? Okay, here's what goes with car.
Yeah. Place, I'll come to last. Animal, maybe a snake.
Keep going.
Okay. So, yeah, since you said we can go on, a thing is a strip of cloth. I just watched a video on that. And a place I still can't think of, maybe some place which is like a square or something. Maybe the European countries which look.
All right. Sounds good. Sounds good. I mean, like I said, there are no real right answers. You can't prepare for it, Rajpreet. I know you are a high achiever in life, and both of you are. But I'm going to prepare and put my best foot forward. That's not how this game goes. This is on the spur of the moment, whatever happens. All right. So, and one thing I do want to mention to the audience that this is a little different. It's a panel discussion, and everybody, like I said, has an opinion on what we're going to discuss today: the role of women, adulting, growing up, multi-generational relationships. We're going to discuss all those things, and you all have opinions. So we're going to keep a little more time aside for that. So roughly around 40 minutes into this conversation, we'll switch tactics and keep it open for the audience to participate and ask questions and give insights that can lead to a more fruitful, more deep discussion for all of us. So the first question, ladies and gentlemen. Now, it's gonna be a little controversial, and I hope this can jiggle and loosen up some of the cobwebs in our brain from a Sunday morning. Are men relevant anymore? Because I noticed that more women are entering into the higher education levels. More women are like more than 50% of the women in college campuses in the US are women. Then IVF and single parent, single mom only households are becoming more and more common. Though it's not like very, very common. It is becoming more common. Then there is an understanding that we don't have wars anymore. We don't have that need for a protective army which is going to protect the women and children of the household from attacking forces. And more or less civil society works. So the amount of danger women are directly exposed to is reducing, so that part of manhood is no longer required. So in your view, do you think men are still required anymore? That's whoever can start off. Just put up your hand and start.
I'll start.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Satinder.
I'll start. So, see, everyone is required. That's my starting point. Okay. So there is nothing that any one, gender is going to overtake another gender. If you ask me for the reason, the point is that people out to live a normal life. Okay, most people, I would presume, and it all works together. So if you take IVF, since you put it as, one of the ways in which reproduction is happening today, but I thought my understanding was that IVF still requires two kind of, sperms to go ahead. But see, the point is that IVF actually started how many years ago? Okay, it's not like picking up. I don't even know what the percentage would be. So these things, which naturally happen, and there are certain things where there are interventions. So interventions can keep happening. Different kind of interventions will happen. But I think if it's going to end, it might take a few thousands of years. I don't, believe and think. That's one part. Second thing is that in general, also, if you see, I think it's a hype. In day to day, there are certain things that men do, there are certain things that women do well, and I think that each one should be to themselves. Like if there is someone who knocks at the door, and if it's like an odd time, I would definitely ask my husband or my son, just see who's there, and not go like a big, share any types and say, "Haan, main dekhti hu." So there are certain things. If you look at the kitchen, and it's not that who should cook and who should not, I'm not getting into that. Of course, we do certain things well. We should continue to do those things well. At the end of the day, you have to get along with people who you stay with, who you work with, and in society also. That's my take.
So your take is that everybody has, men and women have defined gender roles. There is reproduction, there is
I'm not saying define. I'm not saying like, only
accepted, maybe accepted.
acceptable. Yes, and what you do well.
Accepted and what you are good at. The people have roles, and let's not fight that. Let's not try to change everything. Women will do everything, or men will only do anything. Okay, Rajpreet, what about you? What's your take on this? Are men required?
So I believe that required all the more if there is anything like that required, all the more the role has increased. So if you see that, so I'll begin with it. It used to take a village to raise a child, right? And that's how it began. And over the generations, that village turned into a mohalla and turned into a street, to a building, and now to one household, right? Which is required to raise a child. And so I believe that the role of the man as well as the woman has only increased because you have a lot more on your shoulders in today's times to take, especially when it comes to raising a child. I also believe that, you know, while women have taken more roles now, so traditionally, again, they were the cultural pillars, right? They were the first teachers of the child. And for men, so just like, but however, with women kind of stepping into the workforce and taking some of the other roles also, I believe men also are expected now to take more roles, not just the masculine energy, but also demonstrate feminine energy in nurturing and taking care, sharing responsibilities, or shared parenting. So I believe they have become even more relevant, and their roles should expand rather than even thinking about them not being relevant.
So in the context of expanded roles, we still see that at least my son is 5 years old. His nursery school or his school at his level, elementary school level, it's mostly women. It's, I would say, 95%. I don't have the statistics, but I'm going to guess that there might be like maybe a handful of male teachers that elementary school children are exposed to. Similarly, in many professions, men don't tend to have a role as such to play. Do you see that as being like something which is holding us back? Do you think, for example, would you want your daughter, my son, to have an elementary school teacher who's male? And if not, if we don't have them, if you say yes, and we don't have so many of them, why is that? And if you say no, why is that? Rajpreet, let's start with you.
Sure. So, again, there are some of the stereotypes and biases that are very ingrained in the culture and traditionally coming from a patriarchal society. And some of the roles, especially, the primary, pre-primary teachers, which were taken up by women as nurturers and then naturally following up, and the trend still continues. And also with respect to the pay, the pay that you get for such kind of roles may have not inspired a more aspirational workforce, which belong like largely the again coming from a patriarchal mindset. So maybe those could be some of the reasons why these roles have not been primarily still taken up by men. But having said that, from a parent's perspective, I don't think it matters whether the teacher is a female or a male. I think we've all evolved as parents, and there's so much that we keep hearing and listening from DEI perspective as well. And hence, I would still say that the expanded role is required, where even men can be viewed as nurturers. And I know parents where both are playing role. In fact, my husband, for example, he does comb my daughter's hair. So and we are Sadar, so we have long hair, and he does that. If like today, if I'm on a podcast and she had to go for a basketball class, so my husband actually got her ready. So I think again we need to go beyond some of these stereotypes and have those shared responsibilities.
Satinder, what about you? Where do you see, do you want men to be entering the caring, nurturing, supportive roles? And from this, not just you as a woman, from a generational perspective, it's visible. You're a little older than us. What were you seeing in your time? Were the same conversations being held at that time? And what is the opinion then? What is the opinion now? What do you say? You're muted.
Put on. There's a little noise sometimes. Yeah. So, see, I'll tell you about myself. So, see, one thing is that, as she said, my father played a big role in helping my mother. Okay, so let me give you the as a context. So what he used to do is in the morning, we are three of us, and all three of us had to go to school, and as you said, we had to comb my hair, all that stuff. So my dad used to get up in the morning. We used to heat water on the stove. We used to make sure he puts the water in the bathroom, make sure each one of us goes there, and makes breakfast so that my mother gets a little respite and she does the basic stuff. Okay. So I don't see this whole role thing playing, at least in my life, it didn't have any, too much of importance that this is a man's job, woman's job, aisa kuch nahi. My mother used to be a homemaker. My father used to help her and do work. We had our work just close to the home. He used to cook sometimes because non-vegetarian food, when we used to have, it requires more cooking. So he used to think he's helping a kind of stuff. Okay. So that is as far as this is concerned. But one thing just struck me was that when I graduated and I wanted to work somewhere, it's a natural progression that, okay, now bhi padhai ho gaya, now you need to, you should work. So my father told me 2-3 things, and I now, I'm just able to put them together. He says, if you have to work, okay, you can work, but he allowed me 2 professions. One of them was a teacher and one of them was a banker. Now, why he said banker part, I think maybe because when he used to visit the bank and he might be seeing some people out there, he said no third thing. Matlab aise you can't go. Maybe that was from a more safety, security, I really don't know. But I think it is more or less like that because teacher jobs, when they happen in that generation, and I did work as a teacher for 1 year, was more from a, safety point of view, timing kam hota hai, and lots of, that kind of stuff is how I'm thinking. Banker, because, it's a more public place where people work. I'm not talking about banking today. So that's one thing why I think that typically teachers tend to go there because you get vacations. I mean, that's like a very important thing because now having done a full-time job, I know how it's not easy. I remember leaving home at 7:30 in the morning to reach office by 9 o'clock. That's how it is in Bombay if you have to go anywhere far off. And coming home sometimes even at 9, 10 or whatever time. Now imagine if you're out of the house for that long, that's something we accept today. But it is not something that, was so generally accepted so many years back. But the other thing which you said, these small children and why there are, lady teachers. One of the things also I think is that, again, it comes to that little natural tendency. Okay. It's like women are able to deal with children a little better, as what I think. Better as in, I'm not again saying that men can't. At no point of time I'm saying that. But I'm just saying some things come instinctively to you. If there is such child who needs, if a child is crying, even if I remember in long flights also sometimes, when there's a child crying, you get that urge to just go and, talk to the child to distract and all. But my husband may not think that. He might only say or feel that, bichara ro raha hai bacha, but may not get up and try to hold the child. So there are some things which I still believe come naturally to people, and maybe that's how these jobs got fixed.
Right.
I'm sure they're changing. I mean, everything is changing.
I want to interject and add my current situation right now. My wife is on a work trip. She's gone off to Lucknow. My son is with me. He's just the two of us at home. And I just want to point out that he's getting his food. I don't think he's starving. I hope not. He hasn't told me anything about starving. So I think he's doing okay in terms of being.
What if you were to go back when if the child would be just 6 months old or 3 months old, okay? And then you would be, see, I've left my daughter back when I went to work, right? So my daughter was just 5 months when I had joined Punjab National Bank. It had a management training program, which was for 52 weeks. So I'd skipped the initial because, I hadn't joined them, whatever it was. After that, I had to go 3 weeks at a stretch to Ludhiana. Okay, we used to travel by train. I'm talking about 86. We used to travel by train. I'd gone to Ludhiana. My daughter was just 5 months old when I left her with my mother-in-law. She told me she'll look after the child. I left her with my mother-in-law. Now, would my husband be able to take care of my daughter when she was 5 months old, still, requiring the basic stuff? No. But at that same time, he told me that what does a child require? A child just requires someone to physically make sure that the child is comfortable. Okay, the child doesn't understand who's the mother, who's the sister, who's the all that stuff. That's in our heads. So you can leave her. She'll be well looked after and you go. Now see, you can just patch the things together.
Right. Rajpreet, you mentioned something about women being cultural pillars in society, of society. And I want to draw the contrast between, and this was something that I wanted to touch upon a little later, but since you mentioned it, I'll do it right away. That globally, if you look outside India, it's culture, religion, it tends to be very male controlled. There is, if you look at, say, Islamic countries, there is imams, and the mosque is mostly driven by men. If you look at Christian countries, maybe not secular or separated church and state, all those things, but the churches are led by priests, male priests most of the time. Even now, it's like a unique thing to see a female abbey or a priest or something leading a congregation. But in India, the difference is that there are entire events, at least in Hindu India, I'm not sure about other religions, there are entire days set aside for women to be spiritual leaders and cultural torchbearers. Like, there's Karwa Chauth, and there is, I don't know, in South India, there is something called some festivals coming up. I forget what it is, but they have all these moments where women are being allowed to, take the lead in maintaining culture. Now, do you see that as what is? I mean, I just want to expand on that. I don't know what I'm actually getting out of it, but I want to understand from you what the role of women as cultural pillars is in your view. What is it that women bring to the table that men cannot, or just forget about the men, just talk about women. What is it that women bring to the table as culture carriers and pillars of the culture, in your view?
So I believe that women are the cultural anchors. And so that is one thing which has still not changed over the years, over several traditions and generations. And I think even across the globe, they are the first teachers, from lullabies to all the moral values and lessons, while they also learn from their fathers. But the primary responsibility, still somewhere unsaid, in an unsaid manner, lies a lot with the woman of the house, and not just in terms of taking care of the child, but also putting the entire family together. So there is a lot of responsibility that weighs, I believe, on a woman, and I think this spans across geographies. So that's what I believe. Today, of course,
I agree with you, because my mother, for example, she knows my father's side, the history of my father's side of the family and her own side of the family. She knows like connections
yeah,
between two
the
generations.
calendars also, right? Whose birthdays, when in extended families, she would know which event is where, when is the PTA. Even now, like the WhatsApp groups of school children, like the mother would be completely on top of things, right? So that still kind of continues over the generations. But what has changed, I would say, is that today children are expected to be, with the kind of exposure that they have, they are expected to be like global citizens, right? So in the sense that you're not like, when I grew up in a very small town of Jamshedpur, and for me, like up till 10th, I had just been just maybe to Calcutta or Darjeeling, and that's all. So I just thought my whole world was Jamshedpur. And but now my daughter, she was like 1.5 years old, and she's traveled to US, she's been to Europe, and she's like, there's so much exposure that they have today with information available everywhere. So things have changed and evolved. And when Satinder ji, when she mentioned that her father had told her, that these were the options, it just reminded me also of an incident that when I was leaving home for studying, so I belong to Jamshedpur, and for further education, very high level education, in those days, you had to kind of move out of the city or the town at that time. So my father told me just one thing, you do whatever you want, you do where you go wherever you go, but just marry the boy of my choice. So and this was something that he told me, and of course I did finally land up marrying the boy of his choice, and I'm very happy about it. I've been married for almost 20 years now. But so these are some things which there is some responsibility somewhere on the lady, I feel.
So Satinder, were you also told that you can be a banker, you can be a teacher, and you have to marry the person of my choice, or did you have some freedom in choosing your spouse?
The freedom was in the sense, see, during my time, okay, I can talk about. I remember an incident where someone showed some interest in me. Okay, first of all, I studied in a girls' school, girls' college. I had very little exposure to boys, and also we were the only family, and we didn't have relatives, etc. So that was one thing. But when someone did show interest, my father, I mean, it didn't obviously work out, but he said, "Yeah, it's okay. Let the boy's father have a talk." So he wasn't close to it. That I know for sure. But whether he was so open that he would allow me to do anything, I don't think so. Because see what happens, I'll tell you. We grow, we know what our parents want, right? And if you're into that, now whether I'm not talking about the other side because I really wasn't a rebel in any manner. So I knew that I would broadly be compliant, okay? But definitely, it wasn't key. I found this match for you, and I'm sure that is in everybody's case, that at least in Rajpreet's case also, that I found this match for you, now you get married. It wasn't like that. It was that, okay, this is the match. Are you, we were allowed to have a conversation. We had a chat and all. And then he asked me, is this okay with you? So it was a mid path if you really look at it. But same thing now, because I'm here and now when my daughter got married. Okay. See, the first thing is that you want, or even it's I think little bit natural also that you get married to people within your community, because it's easier. There are lots of things that just fall in place. So I was looking out for a match for her, and she was doing dentistry. She's a postgrad in oral pathology, and I was trying to find a match for her. Strangely enough, I looked at typical banker, jaisa, pulled out Google Sheets, all that searches I did. And I really didn't find. Okay, when I'm saying I didn't find, it was that she was already, she was doing post-graduation medical, means she was around 26, 27. Most of the Sikh boys get married when for 24, 25, for whatever, mostly I'm saying, other than those who really get into education, most which I found were business people already married. I told her, look, it's very difficult. And she had given me some locations, very difficult to find all what you want. And then we went ahead with, we were pretty open. She's married a Punjabi, but that was not really a criteria. In fact, we had to convince my in-laws and all, who were like, so I mean, there's an expectation.
Right.
But yeah, everyone just moved ahead and things moved on.
We're talking about generations now. So you, Satinder, you have a granddaughter as well. Rajpreet, you have a daughter. Do you see a different future for them than what is available to you? Would you be more hands-off for your granddaughter, Satinder, Rajpreet, for your daughter? Like, TK, here are some basic things you should be aware of. Like, you should not probably marry somebody who's super like addicted to drugs or something. But that's probably the limit of what do you see it changing over the next generation?
Yeah, I'll just, because it's in continuation, I'll just take this. See, there is a generation gap even between two children. I have a boy and my daughter's elder and my son is younger. They have a 4-year gap. But in the way the times have changed, it seems like a generation gap. Okay. The way,
Could you also expand on that later? Once you finish this point, could you expand on the generation gap?
And now when I see my daughter, looking after her daughter, okay, sometimes I just feel that she's just overdoing. In the sense that she wants to know who is dropping. I used to sometimes allow people to, just drop. I used to sometimes send, I was okay if I was sure of the driver, okay, this one is going. She makes sure sometimes the maid goes with it, with the thing. She's saying, Mom, you don't know. And I tell her, just leave them. I stay on the 5th floor in a building and I have an ice cream shop down. And one day I just told her, let her go down and bring ice cream. No. She's saying I said, I mean, you have to allow them to do it. Now, but she's overconscious. Now, it's not that my daughter's overconscious. I'm seeing that mothers are more. And I'll also just add to this. When I was working, I had, of course, younger people who were working with me. Just to leave their child home and then call up at least 5 times to ask, did the child do this? Did the child do that? And sometimes, I used to call them I used to tell them, let me tell you from my experience, it's okay. If you have left your child with a trustworthy person, and especially if it's your family, don't keep calling up to check. You have to trust them. Just leave it. So I really don't know. I believe that, of course, times have changed and the kind of things that we see happening, they used to happen earlier, only we didn't know about them, or we used to hear of them from, from some people. So on one side, they allow children more freedom. On the other side, they are more protective. I'm talking about how I see the next generation. Now, what they do, I don't know.
I see. So I guess to summarize what you're saying, they allow children freedom of the mind. So you get more knowledge, more availability of information, but the freedom of physically doing something is held back. Okay. Rajpreet, what's your thought on this? Would you let your daughter, which kind of freedom would you allow more? Freedom of the mind or freedom of autonomy of movement and stuff?
So I'm nobody to allow her freedom of mind. She's already, very independent and mature, even though at the age of 11. And she has a vote at home. So, 3 of us are there. So any critical decision, she has a vote already in the house. So that ways, she's, I believe today's generation, they're quite evolved, at least, in their mind, and thanks to the exposure, and they're very informed. But again, if you just take a step back and see how things have changed, if you look at business landscape, things have changed from mass production to now hyper personalization. If you look at the whole village thing that I spoke about, how people have geographically, like we were all living together, the communities were larger, and then it became smaller, and now it's like small houses. You trust people less. You want to love a lot of people, but you kind of trust less. There's so much of cognition. There's so much. The parents have been protective, even then, even now. But how societies have changed has then made a difference in the parenting also. Like when we grew up, we used to go out and play in gardens or even in the mohallas that we stayed in, and parents didn't even know where we are, right? We would just come back, and there was a time that was agreed, and we would ensure that we are back home by that time. And we would be in anybody's house. You could just walk up to your neighbor, open the refrigerator. I never thought, even like we never had to think twice, right? But here it's much more with all that sophistication and the way we've developed as economies. And only I feel now, if my daughter has to go to my neighbor's place also, she would also think twice rather than me telling her. So like we shouldn't disturb, or like those kind of formalities have just seeped in, knowingly or unknowingly.
Where did your daughter learn this? Was it from you that, you were like, "Hey, let's not go there, it's late at night, let's not go there, it'll disturb them"? Or was it something that she learned from YouTube, or where did this insight that we should not bother other people, we should keep to ourselves and not, go into somebody's house and ask for help or just sit at their house for hours? Where did that instinctiveness come from, in your view, Rajpreet?
Um, yeah, I think it's observation. So maybe, like as parents, we also don't just now barge into anybody's home. Even if we have to come, even if I have to go to my neighbor, I'll first WhatsApp and check, if I'm just coming over, are you available? So things like that. So it's just kind of this protocol thing. It's just seeped into the culture. Like even, for example, if you have to wish somebody now, just a WhatsApp, we don't even bother to pick up the phone and call. So that's how things have changed. And maybe I don't know how they would pick it and take it forward. But to come back to your question, and there was one more thought that I was sitting with, when again from a culture perspective that we initially earlier spoke about. So there is, while women have been bestowed somehow in an unsaid way the responsibility of culture, but whatever I have been able to achieve, whatever little I have been able to achieve, it's not just because of my mother, right? Not just because while the values and a lot of moral compass comes from her and the parental voice in the head, but there's so much that I've learned even from my father. There are certain qualities like willpower or determination or some of these key attributes, or even from my husband. So you pick up so many things from the strong male members in the family who are there to support you. So earlier it was my father in my life, now it is my husband. So you needed that the whole overall support that a child would need would come from both the parents. The whole
Right.
idea of both being together itself gives so much of joy to the child.
Right.
That's what I feel.
I'm going to quickly go back to Satinder about her generational difference between her son and her daughter, because that is interesting. 4 years is hardly any difference, but you still felt there was a generation. Was your son an 80s kid while your daughter was a 70s kid? Because
About 86 and 90. So
there is there is a micro generation apparently of people whose childhood was analog, which is basically you have to go out and play, and whose adulthood has become internet only, or digital. So there's a micro generation. I was just wondering if
I
your daughter.
think it was, sorry if I've cut you. No, it wasn't like that. See, and there's a study, I read it recently because, now because the children are so grown up and when we sit together, all discussions open. So what I understood is that my daughter was more influenced by my in-laws, in the sense influenced when I say she lived more with them. And so, those granny qualities, if you might say, she learned whatever she learned from them, that you have to be nice to people, the basic household things that happen. Okay, she grew mostly like that. So I think her upbringing was in that sense more compliant. So I'm not saying, you see, we were never strict parents. Nothing was very strict in our house. But yeah, there were certain things, what you should wear. My father-in-law had a view. So, you try to, match up with everything. Now, whereas my son, he studied outside the house. So he did his BBA law in Pune. Now he was so 5 years he stayed by himself. That was one very something that would have influenced him. So and plus he has a very he's a different person. Now when I say different person, he's a more deep reader. He will, like if I'm doing something superficial, I'll just read 2-3 pages and leave it. But if he gets into a concept, he'll get into it like till the cows come home. So that's the difference in which they think.
Right.
The third thing is, I don't know if this has a role to play. She's a girl, he's a boy, whether they think differently, I don't know. That could be one of the reasons. So also, there's this whole conditioning and experience that changes a lot of things. And now, because things are changing so fast, I think that 4 years is like a long time in that sense. So he has a different kind of point of view. She makes sure that, you know, she gets approval from everybody before she does something. So
More
I don't know.
collaborative.
Yeah,
Right.
there are lots of those factors.
Now, speaking of the digital age and the age we're in, there is this entire subculture of men called incels. They call themselves involuntarily celibate, and they're basically anti-women to some extent. And I don't know if you guys are aware of it, but there's an entire it's a movement that we don't want women in our lives. We want to exclude women. Do you see that happening in your circles, that men are becoming more resistant? I don't know, maybe the resistant is the word, but they don't the appreciation of women women in whatever way way you want to interpret appreciation, that is going down. There is this friction that's developing between the two genders. Is that something that you're aware of, that you're sensing?
Not
Just to add to that, and this is I forgot to mention this, over the past say year or so, there have been all these court cases and incidents where men are saying, oh, you know what, women are oppressing us by using these laws against domestic violence against us, dowry deaths and dowry cases, and there are cases of men committing suicide because of mental pressure from the in-laws and all those things. Do you see this? Like, was it Satinder, since you were part of a previous generation, you could maybe tell us, was it similar back then? Were there men even then who were like, oh man, women are the problem? No. Or is that a new thing, that because people are talking to each other more and there's more knowledge available to us, we're like, oh yeah, women are the problem? Do you see that happening?
See, two things, okay? One is that I have seen this kind of thing happening to someone very close to me, so I know it happens, okay? The women taking advantage and stuff like that, okay? That's one part of it. Put that aside. Now, if we talk about society in general, I think it's a handful of people who, now we're talking about two separate things, okay? One, we are talking about misuse of law. It is coming up now more. And now that women are working, they have some, see, at the end of the day, it is all financial power that makes you powerful or not. It's as simple as that. So what happens is, when people have started working, they have, they know their rights, they know their, all that stuff. So that's one part. Of course, misusing law is bad, shouldn't happen. It used to happen earlier in one direction, now it's happening in the other direction or both directions. What was the other thing you said was that whether men not wanting women and all, I have not come across anything in my circle of, I have not come across in my circle of life in general, in my circle of work also. I have friends, I mean, obviously I'm still in touch and still working. I don't think I've come across, there must be very far and few who are in this, I don't know what movement and all.
You're not seeing this misogyny coming into society, like, oh, women are horrible, not kind of, okay. Rajpreet, what about you?
Yeah, I also think so. I don't think that I've not met a man who doesn't want a woman. In the sense that who thinks that or I'm not aware as well of any such movement. But having said that, what I also believe is that let's to look at DEI. Right from COVID, it became like a top LinkedIn voice, and a lot of I've also been a DEI advocate, but I believe somewhere the sad part of it is that it was looked with a very myopic lens. It was only seen as women, that DEI is all about women empowerment, about hiring more women, creating that parity and whatnot. Wherein so things and policies and laws, they were looked at in form and not in spirit, because when you are trying to empower women, it shouldn't come at the expense of men being, kind of sidelines. While I understand that equity needs to be there, we need more equitable policies to create a level playing field, but not at, one gender at the expense of the other. So that is something that, because it acts as a double-edged sword, right? If a woman is promoted, and it's like whether it's a DEI candidate being pushed, or whether it's really based on merit. So a lot of things in terms of how the implementation of some of these philosophical uh, uh, ideas have happened. I think that there is a role there that one needs to play in how these are implemented and in spirit. than really somewhere where you don't need to uh, like weigh one as at the expense of the other.
Uh, uh,
That's
uh, Before we open it up, and I promised I'd do this a little earlier, but I just have one more question to ask, and then we can open it up to the audience to have a more deeper conversation. Maternity laws in India are really progressive. From what I understand, it's really, really good the way Indian society has opened up and accepted the role of motherhood. How was it, Satinder, during your time? How is it now, and where do you see the future? And how does India stack up against the rest of the world? We can start with either one of you.
I started working with, a reputed organization, Punjab National Bank. It was in existence it's an over a century-old bank and things like that. So they had certain rules. We had a 3-month maternity leave, and that was it. So yeah, and
You didn't have any problems at all.
sorry.
You didn't have any issues at all then.
Taking leave, I didn't have issues. In fact, when my daughter was born, it's a little. I was supposed to join on the 25th of August when I was in an advanced stage of pregnancy. So I actually joined in November. Bank was kind enough to allow me to join late, even though I was not their employee. I would have become their employee only after I had joined. They allowed me, they gave me 3 extensions. So I think that was like, at that point of time, I would really give it to them. Okay. The second thing was, now that was on me. My daughter was just 2.5 months old when I joined, because I had to either join or not join. I had to take a call. They couldn't have, kept it endlessly. So my daughter was 2.5 months old when I started working. Okay. But yeah, it was that way. And then we used to take extended leave and things like that. So see, I think the times have changed for sure. I had somebody at home to look after my child. So it wasn't like the biggest thing that I was doing in life. Today, how I see it is that most people, their entire thinking changes. In my mind, means I'm talking about myself. I don't know about what how others think. So I thought having a child was a natural progression that happens. You study, you get married, you have a child, and yeah, and the child grows. I mean, I didn't, do any kind of big planning on what to do with the child. Okay. So life went on. You want to have a second child? Yes, no. We had a discussion, my husband and me, and then we thought, okay, we should have a second child, and we had a second child, and then life went on again as usual. So there wasn't this whole thing कि इधर बंद करो, फिर इधर start करो, फिर start करो. Everything. Most of my friends also, if I think that way, did everything in normal course. There weren't big events in our life where we had to change course and things like that.
Rajpreet, your thoughts on India's maternity laws, how it's changing all those things?
Sure. I think I've not been that fortunate to have these, that it was an event in my life. It was a very important in the sense that both from a career and family perspective. So laws, yes. When I was pregnant in 2013, the laws had already got changed in terms of there was 6 months maternity leave that we got, and also rules around having a daycare. If there are more than 50 women employees, then mandatory organization, by mandate, they had to have a daycare and a creche, which is there in one of the primary locations where there are more than 50 women. So while that is more advantageous, and I've even seen women being promoted while they are pregnant, and I've seen such cases as well. So all that is very nice. But my experience was different because, like the daycare that I was working in one of the banks at that time, the daycare was in a different location, and my role required me to work in a different location. Right. So the daycare was in Goregaon and my office was in Fort. So you can imagine, like, it was not practically possible for me to send my tie. So locational disadvantage was there. And the role did not allow me to just work out of. And of course, those days, COVID had not happened. So people were not that open to. Now, of course, it's like you can even work from home and things have evolved a lot. I see a sea change there. But in those days, if you had to really request for working out of another office, it raised eyebrows. And I even remember that when you call something as a microaggression. So one of the managers, he actually, it was already 9 months that I had, like I had joined back work in the 6th month itself, just sticking to the rules. But once I joined back, I was actually told by my manager that why don't you take up this role? It'll give you more time for the child, and he was trying to be to support me. But the whole point is that we call it in DEI parlance as microaggression, because why don't you just ask whether I want a demoted role uh, to take care of my child, or whether I am equally ambitious or even more ambitious now? Because I believe that what I was before my child and what I am after that, the responsibility, the ambition, the whole purpose. There's so much purpose that I have found, which was not there so much, before the birth of the child. So I believe that as responsible managers, one should ask rather than decide or offer. So there could be situations where women may want more a kind of a demoted role during that phase to support. There could be women who actually want larger roles, or at least the same role that they had, and not really a demotion. So that is what I believe, that rather than assume, just ask.
Yes.
So
So it's 8:53 and I promised 20 minutes of audience time. So I'm going to stop now and open it up to the audience. Ladies and gentlemen, please feel free to jump in, ask any questions you want to our two panelists. You've heard their stories, you've heard their opinions. Now it's your time. Feel free to jump in.
Panelists Rajpreet and Satinder Kaur. I'm one of the trainers here at Mavin. Listening to your story was very, very inspiring for me. We do not, as women, as Sikh women, we do not give up. And kudos to Rajpreet had a different journey, and Satinder had a different journey, and I have a different journey. Everybody has a different journey. So as a laughter yoga teacher and a trainer and a motivational speaker, I would say that keep laughing. Keep laughing and
to add to your point, I noticed that there is definitely a generational shift between Satinder and Rajpreet and obviously, that is exactly the point of having this panel discussion about women, but not just women today. See a historical, or no, maybe I shouldn't call it history. I shouldn't call Satinder history. She is still part of the current life.
Both of you are my role models, so I would like to watch this recording again and again. I wouldn't have.
Thank
you. So I'll probably be someone like you, be someone like Rajpreet someday, fighting for the advocacy of the differently able being a Senate in Malaysia. Thank you.
Anyone else have any?
I have just one point, I was thinking about something and I'll just quickly make the point. See, this is about this DEI concept which didn't exist when I was working. Most of it just started about, I think maybe 7 years ago. So I just remember one incident. I was trying to write a post, so I was putting my thoughts in together. See, when we were in school, and if we were, sitting in a class, in those days, we used to copy from the blackboard, right, and write down. We used to wait till the last child, the last person, okay, who used to write very slowly, and wait. The teachers used to make sure that we wait till everyone finishes and then leave. Okay. Now that is a natural DEI. I mean, it's like you're including, it's inclusion. Okay. We used to play with all kinds of children, rich, poor. I stayed in a locality where, ours was the house and all others had those, opposite our house. We had different people. We all used to work together, never ever think about kahan se aa raha hai, what is the religion, what is the background, rich, poor, nothing. Now that was inclusion. But the moment we label something, then we start building processes around it. and then we start. So I was just trying to figure out what are these kind of things that have come up now, which we when we did naturally, and which we are now, now putting this thing. And it's not just about this; it's about anything else that we do.
You are a process engineer, so clearly this was something that that is important to you. This
Yeah.
transition from natural to systematic. Rajpreet, any counterpoints that you want to make?
I can speak for ages on inclusion because that's where I started my company, Fair and Square. We've developed the first inclusion measurement model in India. So I feel very deeply about the concept of inclusion, and I know that it's a real thing. And yes, we need to nurture, the children for tomorrow who would go beyond really labeling, as Satinder ji mentioned. And I just want to add one more quick perspective, that a very, very quick, like a 1 minute kind of a story. There was this person who went to the forest and was looking at the metamorphosis happening. And the person got really curious, and there was from the pupa, from the chrysalis, the butterfly was trying to come out. Tried and it was not able to come out, till the person got really empathetic and felt that let me help the butterfly to come out, and just took a twig and kind of tried to make that hole a little bigger so that the young butterfly could come out. And obviously the result was that the butterfly died. So the whole idea is that, when you are going through that struggle, as children also, you learn it the harder way. That's where the butterfly gets the wings, through all the hardships that, the inner strength that they gain, to overcome that whole metamorphosis gives them those wings. So as mothers, as parents, we need to have that balance of, while we need to be that guiding force for them and leading by example, but also give them that space to develop their wings. That's what I would like to just conclude with.
Right. Thanks for sharing. And that's a really nice story that you need to go through that period of churn and struggle to emerge stronger from the other side. And just helping people might not always be the answer. That's a fair insight. Prem, did you want to add something? I saw you come on screen and then you're muted, just so you know.
Hi, namaste.
Namaste.
I don't know where to start actually. My observation is that I wanted to take more part in the event. Let's say when my wife was pregnant, I just don't want to be a observer. I wanted to participate. For example, there are 3 trimesters, 3 months, 3 months, 3 months. So I want to know what role I could play for the first 3 months, then the other 3 months, and of course the final 3 months. So during those stages of pregnancy, I went and observed my other colleagues. They could be clerical staff or officers who have gone through that stages or are going through those stages. So I will spend my lunch hour going seeing them and getting their perspectives, the do's and don'ts, the observation. Why these ladies, when they get pregnant, they want to eat all these sour things, that kind of stuff, I went poked my nose here and there. So I used to, like lunch hour, the girls would get together, gossip, and Prem will come and sit there, the thorn among the roses. But I picked up so many things there. And in fact, when Ganga was born, I had taken leave. I knew she'll be born on Valentine's Day. I took leave. So water bag and all that. So when my mother rushed and my mother-in-law rushed, and they saw Prem is taking care of the baby, bathing the baby, taking care of the umbilical cord. They say, he doesn't need us. He's doing fine. And I was really enjoying the process because when she was delivered, I was in the delivery room. I saw her come to the world. So I wanted to be from there on there with her, seeing her, swim in the tub, small tub there, and washing her. I want to be part and process of the thing.
It looks like your generation, people from your generation were the reason why slowly men are becoming more open to supporting the family directly, like being hands-on as caregivers.
Yeah, you're right. You know why? Because I felt that I had to be a bit of Eve there. I'm Adam, yes, reasoning and all that, but I had to be emotional there also. I had to commit myself to the emotional aspect of it, Eve. And I felt very comfortable with the balance.
Nice.
I felt that there was something that I was really at home with. That this feminine side of
If I could interrupt, and we don't have a lot of time, I just want to make sure that
yeah,
there are a couple of other people in the meeting. There's
sure,
Ram Prasad and
sure.
Jayalakshmi. If they have any insights to share, maybe we could get them, and then we can always come back to what you were sharing.
Yeah, I just wanted to conclude because I find that this gave me a very deep perspective. I didn't interfere too much in my daughter's life when she had a family of her own. Just observe as an observer. And I'm quite comfortable seeing what she's doing, the rights and wrongs or whatever it is. That's her life. I'm okay to observe. Yeah,
All right.
thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing. That's really nice because it's good to know that the people from previous generation also felt similarly to what the men are feeling today. Jayalakshmi, yes, and I think Ram Prasad also there. Please go ahead, Jayalakshmi.
Thank you. Thank you. I've been enjoying this conversation, and I'm seeing I'm 65 and still active, working, and I work with a lot of young people. And I see one of the struggles that the young people face is that inability to open up and converse if they are facing issues uh, in workplace, in reality, also amongst the family members. So they feel that they feel a lot of something holding back in them, especially if it is at the emotional level. So if they have some plan and if there's some workload coming at 4:30 in the evening, and they just have 1 hour and they've already made some plan at 5:30, it's like a terrible thing. They are in an emotional mess. So that next 1 hour is going to be so traumatic. They're going to be so much with their so-called friends who can't really help them, but they don't have the courage to come and, discuss with the colleagues. I find that this is one of the gap areas which we need to really address, because this may not be just with marriage and family and stuff like that, but also with relationship building. Young people who are still trying to find their partners or trying to find that cohesion are also struggling. This dilemma between work and their own personal lives. This, I think, is a big struggle. The second thing that I experienced, having personally grown up in a large joint family, that boys and girls were treated equally and given equal chances, whether it is cooking in the house or doing the outside chores or going for a training or going for treks. So I think that made a difference in the way we perceive, the relationships outside our homes. I think that becomes also a very important part. If we are too protected, we don't know how to face the world outside. So the young generation, which is getting protected until they are out of school, and then suddenly they are faced with these kind of situations in their college or in their workplace. So I think there are these things to flag.
This is definitely a topic by itself that we should be covering in a future, funnily enough, episode. Thank you for sharing, Jayalakshmi. Ram Prasad, anything you wanted to share?
Yes, in my life, the feminine side has been the more dominant. Even when I was being brought up in a village, my mother was the who was taking care of me and all of my brother and sisters. When I got married, my wife took over the house entire, and my children even don't know me. She has taken so much care of her children, and now my daughter even takes over. So from my side, the men was not so important as much as the female genders were important in my life.
Even in Jamshedpur, Rajpreet and I are from the same town, Jamshedpur. I remember that my neighbors were a Bihari family, and the grandmother of that family, so basically like 2 generations above us, they were like completely comfortable taking charge of really big events, and they were all smoking and drinking bidi and having fun. They were like really, really strong people, strong women. And when I hear stories about, oh, women need to be protected and nurtured and they need to be supported, I'm always reminded of the grandparents of my neighbors who were super like, the women, they didn't feel like they needed anything. In fact, they were more in control than all of us. So it's always a little bit of a disconnect between the reality that I grew up with versus what we are seeing, at least discussed in the papers and all the think tanks and all that. So with that, I think it's probably time to end this because it's 9:07. It's been an hour. Thank you so much, Rajpreet. Thank you so much, Satinder. I really appreciate the fact that on short notice, you guys were available to talk about a topic that is not really something though you're women, it's not like you keep thinking about women's problems. I'm sure it must have been a challenge for you. I really appreciate that you came on and you spent an hour with us and discussing these things. And Satinder, especially for you to have that generational perspective, it was really important that I had you on the panel. So thank you for being part of this. And you can see this boy that I was telling you that I'm making sure that he's alive.
Proof. But I'll make just one sentence at the end because I've just got a feeling that maybe, I've created another impression. See, in day to day, there were challenges. So it should not be that, it was a very rosy picture and everything fell in place. There were a lot of things that we had to fight for. There are a lot of things that we had to, stand up against for life to move on and to reach where we have reached. I'm sure it's with Rajpreet also. So life is not rosy in that sense because we just had this much time. So this is all that we could talk about.
Right. So I accept that, yes, it must, when you're experiencing those years, it must have been like, I'm still struggling. It's not like it was all smooth sailing. I accept your correction on that. Rajpreet, anything closing words from you?
Well, thank you so much, Sai, for having me be a part of this. So thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen. And Shabana, over to you. We can close the meeting if you want.
Yeah, thank you, Sai. Thank you so much for our esteemed guest, Rajpreet and Satinderji. Thank you. Your viewpoints were really very interesting and good to know. And we all can experience that in our lives. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having us.
Yeah, Lakshmi, I saw your message. Thank you. I'll pass on the message to my wife. It's not me. He's got his good looks from my wife, I'm sure.
Awesome. And thank you, everyone. See you again tomorrow.